I'm assuming that you clicked into this video because you have similar thoughts like myself, and if you think this is actually something funny, I would just kindly ask you to click away because I personally believe that this is a very serious topic to discuss and is really nothing to be laughing at. And before we get into this overall discussion of dropping out and with everything, I just want to talk about the amount of anxiety, stress, and basically kind of depression that I've been facing for, I guess, the past couple of months into thinking about all of this. And literally just being, self-aware about my future and planning about where I really want to do and where I really want to go. And if you're going through this, you will also understand this as well. So a bit about my background first. I come from a family where education is basically emphasized. And I could probably assume that, that's for all of the different families in the world where, parents who emphasize education are probably, considered to be normal parents. But I come from a more Asian background where there's like a strong emphasis on getting a more traditional job or like a stable job, and basically being set with the entire education system of going from primary school to secondary school and then going to high school and then graduating to college and then finding a professional career. And I guess that's the main tone and ideology for this background that I've come from most of my friends and people that I've met before. And basically the game that we're playing is that we're basically all set as long as we just follow this whole entire educational path here. So that's a bit about where things have been coming from. And I just want to talk first about how I'm actually by no means upset with my entire situation, and I personally am very grateful that I have such loving parents and such a great family, and we're actually pretty well set, and we're kind of like in the middle. I don't like to use the word poor, but not as economically disabled to the point where we can't really survive with basic needs, but also obviously not to the point where we have thousands of mansions and fancy cars, and by no means do I really want that. But I just kind of want to set the tone of where I am with this background to see if this is something that is relatable. And you're probably thinking right now, well, aren't you pretty much set for life, right? You have literally a full entire plan blown out, and you literally don't have to really matter so much because your parents are, they already laid the path out for you. You just go to school, go to university, get a degree, and get a job, and you're basically done for life, right? If you're probably asking, I guess like 99% of my friends and the people around me, they'll probably say yes, I'm pretty happy with my current path and things. And I don't want to place myself as being the odd person out or the person with special needs or something. And I believe that there's like a group of people which also have similar thinkings of wanting to start their own thing or wanting to have more control over something, which is something we're going to be discussing later in this video. I guess mainly it's really being able to see different things and feel what you personally like and didn't really like. So a bit of how I got really my mindset into this whole entrepreneurship game is actually, I remember I first watched Iman Gadzhi's video on 5 ways to make 10K about 11 months ago. And that was actually my first ever impression of this whole, entrepreneurship world and being able to create digital money, which is something I'm pretty surprised back then because I only thought the only way out is to get a job and just live happily. I didn't really know you were able to walk another path where you could create your own company and do great things like that. So actually, for the next couple of months after I realized that this whole online digital money making business is basically possible, I really didn't really put any actions in it. I kind of like threw that thought away, went back to being a person who just goes to school and basically lives day to day, scrolling social media and doing the normal teenager life as described by the status quo, I believe. I guess a couple of months down later, I stumbled upon Jordan Bound's e-commerce course, and I was like, why not give it a shot? I mean, there's not much to risk, and I was kind of really attracted to the part where you can kind of make money quickly. And I personally also believe that we can make money quickly in the past, but obviously things have changed now after I've been in the game for, I guess, about a year or so. So I went from Jordan Bound's course and I did e-commerce for a couple of months. And after that, I did not really find much success, so I switched business models. And at that time, Iman Gadzhi launched his whole Educate course, which I found out obviously right now that it's his get-rich-quick scheme. Fair game. they caught us. I mean, he caught us basically at the right time. I was trying to look for something else to be learning about. So I bought his course, obviously, and I remember I was actually at Osaka's Disneyland, and I was basically forcing my dad to buy the course just because I know how great it will be. And do I regret doing that? Probably not, because I wouldn't have been in this place where I am today, and I feel like everything really kind of compounds together and just got to get started somewhere. So we bought the course, we went through the entire course, and I found out that there's so many different ways to make money, not only e-commerce but also copywriting, right? And create your own agency, or you could just be a copywriter for another company. So it's not only just starting your own business. And then so I did start my own SEO agency, and that didn't really go too well too, and I actually got screamed at in my first call, but that's another story. So back to the entire topic. After I did Iman Gadzhi's Educate course, I guess that was about 2023 of, I guess, like August or September, and then I moved on to Leevi Earola's lead generation incubator course, which was a 6-month commitment, and I decided to commit to it for 6 months, and I did manage to sign my first client and my second client, which I'm pretty happy about, even though it wasn't really a lot of money, or like those 6-figure stuff compared to what Iman and many people are over glorifying. I still did get a first taste in this entire entrepreneurship world, and I did make a lot of connections, which I'm also something really proud of. And yeah, that's for probably another video to talk about. But back to the overall topic of this whole idea of dropping out, or initially it's actually not dropping out, but rather this idea of working for yourself. All right, so I actually like to break things down really systematically. So first, I just want to talk about the concept of your childhood. So obviously, we've been through our childhood, right? There were things that we don't like, and there are things that we like. And I personally am a heavy believer that there was something lacking in your childhood, then in the future you'll be really determined into catching that thing or being fulfilled in that aspect of your childhood. Alright guys, it's getting a bit noisy, so let's just move to another place and then we can continue filming. But hopefully you can see me really well. I'm trying to adjust my camera, but yeah, so I was talking about the whole childhood thing. So for example, if you were born or raised in a family where your parents are constantly arguing and really not really romantically loving each other, and they didn't really show a lot of connection towards yourself because they had so many different things to deal with, or they're just being frustrated with life in some way, your biggest goal in life would most likely be something related to getting a romantic relationship, just because you face this problem in your childhood, if you get what I mean. So a really common example is people like Iman Gadzhi, right? The main reason why they became basically zero to getting millions of dollars is because they were facing a pain point of not having money. So money was their biggest goal in life, if you get what I mean, from their childhood. So Iman's life, not specifically to mention Iman, but Iman's a really good example, person I basically look up to in business. But Iman basically says, like, if I dedicate myself for the next 5 years, 10 years, for the long term, there's basically nothing to lose, because they're in a situation where like they basically can't go lower than the stakes that they have right now, if you get what I mean, and the upside is just infinite, right? That's why Iman decided to do his own agency and learn and pursue entrepreneurship initially. So I guess this whole childhood thing kind of affects my overall thoughts on pursuing something that I want to do myself and have control of. Mainly it's because I don't want to fall into the trap where I'm working with someone and I'm just not able to be flexible, right? So for example, if I want to be wearing this cloth to obviously work for some reason, I have the ability to do so. Unlike for so many different companies, you have to wear a shirt. So that's just it's just an example that I want to kind of mention out of having the control over your time is something that really attracts me to this whole entrepreneurship experience. And literally, just another example was yesterday. I'm not going to go into that specific because I'm still going to school and things. But yesterday I basically got called out for wearing my PE uniform, so physical education uniform, where literally I'm still wearing the school's uniform, but the school was basically unhappy that I was not wearing a shirt, right? And I was wearing a physical education uniform, which was basically a rule where you're not allowed to do that because you have to be wearing a shirt to school. And I guess I'll use this as motivation to, do my own thing, if you get what I mean. So I guess that's one of the main reasons why I thought about dropping out. And also one of the side reasons is that I found that I'm learning more outside of school than in school, and I feel like that's kind of like a big issue, mainly because I have an idea of basically what I want to do, which is pursue some business and pursue entrepreneurship. And basically I wasted a lot of time just doing subjects that won't really matter to me or does not directly apply, if you get what I mean. And I just found out that reading, I also do a whole lot of reading outside of school. So for people who doesn't know, or if you're a teacher or something, like I obviously do a whole lot of learning outside of school. It's not, you don't only have to learn inside of school, but you could do a lot of learning outside of school. But school's not for everyone, right? And for people like myself, it's just funny because I'm starting to question why I'm still in this school, and I guess I'm doing this for the sake of a degree, right? And there's no problem with doing that because I just have to do it. And I actually also felt slightly guilty when different creators like Hamza talked about dropping out of school, and I really did not take any action with it, I would consider say. But I guess something that I think I personally missed out with this whole entire dropout process, if you're going to be considering it, is you really want to have a systematic approach, right? And basically, what does a systematic approach mean? So let's just say, for example, giving so many examples, but I think it's pretty helpful. Let's just say, for example, you want to be an entrepreneur in the future, and you're actually willing to take all the responsibilities, and you've gone through everything. You've basically gone through it yourself personally for the past year or 2 years. And I would say you should give it at least a 6 months try to see if you actually like to do it and you actually want to pursue that path, right? You still need 3 core mechanisms before dropping out, and this was actually suggested by Iman Gadzhi. If you look back in his video, I think 7 years ago, when he talked about how he dropped out when he was 17, and you can see where he is right now, which is pretty ironic for some people who are laughing at him back then, but now they really can't laugh, right? So Iman actually breaks it down into 3 core parts. So the first part is measuring your financial situation, which is your time frames and your goals. And then the second part will be understanding the stigma behind this move. So for example, understanding the stigma of your friends probably laughing at you, or facing this entire stress of basically society, right? Like your parents will be constantly drilling on you, constantly blasting you for dropping out, and just facing all of these social consequences is another factor. And finally, another factor, which is the most important one, will be the financial vehicle to dropping out. So you need to have a good financial vehicle, and you should be confident with it before even considering dropping out. In brief, this whole systematic approach I personally believe is pretty logical, and we can for sure break it down in another video. If you guys are interested, just do let me know in the comments. And I actually also read a transcript of Naval Ravikant's 3-hour-long podcast, and he actually mentioned some specific interesting points, which I personally believe is one of the best, I would say, online documents or online book. I would say it's a book, online book that I've read in quite a while, though it's, it took me about 4 hours to read the entire thing because it's so long. It's a 3-hour transcript. And he basically mentioned, the 5 core aspects of any entrepreneurship, or if you want to do anything. And these 5 things include having specific knowledge, accountability, leverage, judgment, and the skill of reading. So I'm gonna I could briefly break it down, like each specific part, but obviously each specific ones there's specific criterias. But for specific knowledge, it's like being able to find something that is actually interesting and that is not memorizing, but you could understand in a deeper level. Typically involves the art of technology and art, media, etc., etc. The accountability is you want to have public accountability, so then you are basically responsible for all of your actions. And with leverage, it's basically how would you be scaling this entire thing. And obviously we realize that as the days goes on further, the number of hours that we spend on something will not equal to the output. So it's not linear, it's literally exponential, right? So for example, if I'm posting this YouTube video, me spending 2 hours in total, for example, editing and filming this entire video, can result into making $10,000. Exaggerated, very exaggerated. Let's say make $10,000. But if you consider doing that to a construction worker, if they're working and being paid, being paid to do work for 2 hours, they have a fixated amount, if you know what I mean. So there's a really different relationship with money and time here as we move on to the more digital world. So I guess leverage can also include media and coding, as I mentioned. And then we do have the judgment. So judgment is normally built over time, judging what is right, what is good, and what path you should be taking, and that's a pretty important skill. And finally, the skill of reading and just being able to learn and apply knowledge, right? And being able to read materials effectively and actually take action into it is something that many people actually should be learning to do rather than just intaking a lot of material. And I always believe the more value you give, the more you'll get back, right? So I'm pretty open with sharing so many things with my life and so many different insights, because I know I actually have a purpose of helping as many people as possible. And I hope you've somehow found these insights impactful. And I also link all of the stuff that I've mentioned down in the description. So I always trail off topic, but let's get back to the main point. So I'm actually deciding on multiple paths, right? So one path is I can continue my entire high school diploma and continue doing high school and go to college. So another path option is obviously dropping out. Another path option that is very interesting is dropping out and then doing like a GED thing. So apparently this general education diploma, I think, is basically a high school diploma, but you can basically just take it's basically a general admissions test that allows you to have a alternative high school degree, but obviously not as good as a high school degree to go to top universities if you want to, but still some kind of base education for people to see that you're educated in this world. So I've been kind of like thinking about both options. Both have pros and cons, and after considering all of the different factors and thinking it through personally and listening to different opinions and doing as much research as possible, which I feel like is recommended if you're in this stage of just having these thoughts, I've actually decided to stay in school currently and not actually drop out at this exact moment. But again, this does not mean I won't be dropping out in the future, because I personally believe that when I do get into a certain stage for my business and the things that I'm doing, it's actually rather reasonable to drop out as what Iman did, right? But at this stage right now, I will not be dropping out, as I feel like it is the most reasonable move to be taking, and you want to be making more logical decisions. And again, I personally know that I'm going to be feeling somehow slightly upset about this, like just the fact of spending time on things that I don't really want to be doing and I don't really see beneficial, at least for my personal self. But sometimes you just have to push through and you just gotta do things. And I see this as more like a motivation and a fuel to empower myself right now. High school, to be honest, is just, for myself personally, it's going to be another 1.5 years, and after 1.5 years I'm basically going to be free. I have a choice of going to obviously university, and then I have a choice of probably dropping out if needed or if necessary, right? So it's basically a more free world, but it's just 1.5 years which I have to push through. Yeah, but I guess I still have to be testing the waters, if you get what I mean, and really truly see if in 3-4 months how things are going, and see if this is actually a viable option that I want to be pursuing. And you basically don't want to close any bridges or something, I know many people will probably hate on me for having like a worst case scenario, when literally so many entrepreneurs say don't have a worst case scenario, just go all in. But in this current situation that I'm in, and I think you should also probably consider it as well, like rather than listening blindly to these successful entrepreneurs, you actually have to consider your own personal situation, which is something personal to everyone. So you shouldn't be making this decision based on someone else's thoughts and experiences, since it'll be different. Alright guys, so hope you found this video informative and also effective in some way. And I am by no means telling anyone to be dropping out. And as I mentioned literally a couple seconds ago, you should be doing proper research, right? You should be talking to different people, getting their opinions, and most importantly, you should be doing what you personally feel like doing, and just be sure to be doing proper research, and make sure to have a system if you're actually going to be dropping out, because literally your life is on the line, right? Like, this is nothing funny to be laughing about, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, but for some people, it's for sure going to be a better option than staying in school right now. Yeah, I guess I also want to mention, like, a project that I'm working on right now is actually, a podcast where I am interviewing Gen Z students, or Gen Z bright brains, and I'm just inviting them onto the podcast so then I can share their story around with the world. And I always believe that it's very important to have a very strong network, and I just personally enjoy talking to people and meeting different people and understanding their background stories. So I guess this project will not only be useful if I continue to go into school and meeting different people, but also I think it's a really good engine to drive network for the long term. So that's just a little bit about what I'm basically working on. And obviously, if you probably watched my previous videos, I'm still also going to be working on my outbound marketing agency, Dominize, and yeah, we'll see where we are, and we'll see what we're going to be getting in a couple of months down the line. Finally, I want you guys to be holding me accountable on this little tiny thing, which is that I'll be posting content on YouTube 1 to 2 times every single week. As you've probably seen, my posting schedule really wasn't consistent. I was just posting whenever I like, but I really just want to share more, and I really enjoy creating content for you guys, and just sharing all of my knowledge, and connecting with so many people out there. And mainly, in terms of the content, it's mainly going to be vlogs, and I guess mainly also business content. So I aim for one piece of business content every single week, or one important takeaway. And then it could also be reviews, as if you've seen in my previous video, is reviewing the Entrepreneurship University, which I will probably also link in the description if that sounds interesting. But something along the lines of those three, and we'll see if there's any interesting ideas that comes up. Or also some podcast clips once I start the whole Gen Z podcast, and I'll update you guys more on that. So yeah, hope you guys really enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to share it with anyone who wants to be dropping out. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Oh, my legs hurt so bad.